these very basic steps that you've just described for us?
Minute or so, ma'am.
And to accomplish that, you used a tongue suppressor, an ambu bag, and the oxygen source, the oxygen tank, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
After you completed the basic life support, did you then progress to another form of breath support for Mr. Jackson?
Yes, ma'am.
Describe what that entailed, please.
Yes. It's called advanced life support. And at the time, I took an endotracheal tube, which it's a device that we put down the throat into, and it attach it on to the trachea. So air, 100% air is going directly into the lungs.
Is this a more superior source of breath or air for Mr. Jackson than the ambu bag?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you accomplish this advanced life support action on your own without any assistance from others?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you connect Mr. Jackson's endotracheal device to the oxygen tank that you brought with you as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Approximate for me how much time this advanced life support steps took you in total?
45 seconds.
Mr. Blount, in your opinion, is intubation a basic or an advanced paramedic skill?
Advanced, ma'am.
Is it one that a paramedic learns early on in his or her career?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Blount, what are your observations of Mr. Jackson's physical condition as you can see and assess him at the time that during the roughly 90 seconds where you have conducted these life-saving efforts that you've described for us?
He was non-breathing, he was non-moving, and his eyes was fixed and dilated.
Were his eyes open?
Yes, ma'am.
So fixed and dilated basically means that they were staring straight ahead, seemingly unseen?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Blount, in your 11 years at that point of time experience in emergency situations and arrest situations, did you have an opinion as to whether or not Mr. Jackson was alive at the time that you were making this assessment that you've just described for us?
Felt he was dead, ma'am.
As you were conducting your life-saving efforts and making your observations, was there other activity going on in the room by other individuals? For example, CPR and attempts by paramedic Senef to obtain information regarding the patient's condition?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you observe any medical equipment inside the bedroom area near where you were located or where your field of vision was?
Yes, ma'am.
Describe what you observed, please.
Observed an oxygen tank.
Anything else?
Yes, a long tube with a nasal cannula attached to it.
Describe what a nasal cannula is, please, sir.
Yes, ma'am. It's a form of giving a person oxygen. What it is that it's two tubes, small, circular shape. It goes inserted into the nose, and the tube itself is go around the ears, underneath the chin.
May the record reflect the witness indicated when he said goes into the nose, his left and right nostril. When he indicated over the ears, he indicated that it went over his ears and around the back of his head. Is that correct, sir?
Well, in the front, ma'am, and it locks underneath his chin.
So the strap, if you will, goes around the ears of the patient and then in towards the front under the chin, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you noticed that nasal cannula on Mr. Jackson's face?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you notice any other medical equipment around or attached to Mr. Jackson's body?
Yes, ma'am.
Describe what you saw, please.
Had an IV attached to his right leg, and had a IV, I think it was a 1,000 cc bag attached to an IV stand.
Did you notice an EKG or an ECG machine anywhere in the bedroom?
No, ma'am.
Did you notice a capnography machine or device anywhere in the bedroom or near Mr. Jackson's body?
No, ma'am.
Did you notice a pulse oximeter anywhere near Mr. Jackson's body or on his body?
No, ma'am.
While you were conducting your tasks related to assisting Mr. Jackson, were you able to see the heart monitor that Paramedic Sinif had hooked up and was observing?
Yes, ma'am.
At any time when you are assisting Mr. Jackson, did you see any activity or rhythm on the heart monitor?
No, ma'am.
Would it be accurate that your observation of the heart monitor be that the heart monitor indicated an asystole condition or flatline condition?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Sinif's role was to obtain vital and important information regarding the patient's condition, any medications, or anything that might assist the paramedics in saving Mr. Jackson's life, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you hear Mr. Sinif ask Dr. Murray specifically for information related to Michael Jackson's medical condition or care or medications?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you hear Mr. Sinif ask Conrad Murray whether or not Mr. Jackson was taking any medications?
Yes, ma'am.
What did you hear Dr. Murray respond?
No.
Did you hear Mr. Sinif ask about any pre-existing medical condition that Mr. Jackson may have?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did you hear, if anything, Dr. Conrad Murray reply to that question?
He replied no.
Did you hear Conrad Murray tell Mr. Sinif that the patient was a healthy 50-year-old male?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you hear Dr. Murray provide information as to what treatment he was providing to Michael Jackson?
Yes, ma'am.
What did you hear Conrad Murray say?
Normal saline.
Did you hear Conrad Murray elaborate as to why he was providing normal saline to Mr. Jackson?
Yes, ma'am.
What did you hear Dr. Murray say?
He stated that Michael Jackson was rehearsing for 16 hours. He came home, he was very exhausted, and he was dehydrated, and he wanted to get rehydrated.
Did you hear Mr. Sinif ask Conrad Murray whether or not Mr. Jackson was taking any recreational drugs?
Yes, ma'am.
What did you hear Conrad Murray reply to that question?
Said no.
During the attempts to assist Mr. Jackson, were there starter drugs administered to him?
Yes, ma'am.
Was one of the attempts at the administration of starter drugs performed by Paramedic Goodwin? Can I have a moment, please?
Please.
Can we approach briefly?
Sure. Counsel? Ms. Brazell, thank you.
I'll wait till defense counsel regroups.
All right.
May I proceed, Your Honor?
You may.
Thank you. As I was saying, did part of the efforts to assist Mr. Jackson include administration of starter drugs, atropine and epi?
Yes, ma'am.
Was one of the efforts to administer those drugs by locating a vein in Mr. Jackson's right and left arms?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you see which rescue personnel was attempting to locate a vein in his arms?
Yes, ma'am.
Who was that?
Paramedic Mark Goodwin.
Did you see Paramedic Goodwin make multiple attempts to locate a vein in order to administer starter drugs?
Yes, ma'am.
Was he successful or unsuccessful?
Unsuccessful.
Did you see Paramedic Senef then locate a jugular vein, one in the neck, in order to administer another round of starter drugs to Michael Jackson?
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, I'd like to show you an exhibit previously marked as People's Number 22. May I have the lights, please, Your Honor?
Mr. Sale, thank you.
May I have a moment, Your Honor? We're having technical difficulties.
That's not unusual around here.
Center from where it was at one.
All right, sure.
Maybe it's projector, Your Honor. May I, Your Honor?
Certainly. We have an alarm. There are usually times of the day and days of the week when we have the alarms go off. It's probably going to take a moment. Right now, there's no cause for concern. Deputy Jones has got all sorts of responsibilities. We'll just check to see if this is a regular alarm or not. And it's distracting, so give us a moment, please. I will be the first one out of here, ladies and gentlemen, if it's anything more than that. So please don't be concerned right now. And if you want to, excuse me for a moment, ladies and gentlemen. Just give us a moment. Excuse me. Ladies and gentlemen, it was an accidental pull by a child on another floor. So everything's fine, please. And we're not going to hopefully be distracted for another short period. Ms. Brazil.